So you want two different types of comps. One after repair value comp and one that's in the shape that it's in now. Because the shape that's in now, you want to make it appear to be as horrible as possible so you can get the best price possible because you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. So it's important to pull both comps because sometimes, man, we get into a property and we get into a good deal, but we didn't realize how much work it was going to take. And then once it's fixed up, we may not hit the price point we want. And now we're sunk. All right, welcome.
I'm Colter. This is Jason.
I'm Jason.
This is the Massive and Passive Income Show, and we are going to talk about comparables and ARV, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to save Jason's voice very well.
Seriously, man. But I'll tell you what, I can sing every bass part to the Oak Ridge Boys right now.
Well, let it rip.
Yeah, seriously.
We're looking for viewers, and you know what? You just go after it.
Man, I tell you what, it's been hindering me. I don't feel like sick, like I'm not sick, like to my stomach. I don't run a head cold, but man, it's just some congestion in my chest and just raining havoc on my voice. So, anyways, but I love this topic. Comps is such an important thing to learn how to run, and then also to trust people to pull comps for you. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important.
Well, and I think having the right professionals to do that for you, like you said, is when we're trying to pull comps, we're trying to get an end number of what it is that we're at. What are the competitor on the market, sold, pending type properties that are going to say, hey, you know what, this subject property that we're going after is worth X dollars amount because of Y and Z factors.
Yeah.
And so when we pull all this data together, I love comparables because one, it pulls in a data set that says, okay, here's, let's call it 20 properties comparable to the property that we're looking at. So let's just talk about a 2,000 square foot house that's, a 4-bed, 2-bathroom, and it has a 1-car garage. And what are we looking for?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think too many times appraisers are awesome. I've got a couple of really good friends that are appraisers, but when they appraise, they can only appraise for the parameters of what a bank will allow. So banks only allow a certain amount of mileage away from that house, and so they have to do adjustments. So if they can't find a house that's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath with a 1-car garage that's sitting on a half acre that was built in the 60s, if they can't find one within a couple miles, then they have to do adjustments. And the adjustments sometimes, like I said, they do awesome. They're great, but sometimes it doesn't give you a real true value of what that property is. So I tend to go out and find any property within a 20-mile radius that is exactly like that property. And then I do some takeaways like, okay, that's a bad neighborhood or that's a really nice neighborhood. And then I funnel it in like that because I feel like if you can find a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house built in the 60s and another one built in the 60s that also has a 1-car garage, that also sits on a half acre, almost exactly the same. I mean, with a few variations, then that's my true comp. So somewhere 20 miles away, that house sold. Why did it sell for that amount of money? And am I in a better neighborhood? Have I got some upgrades that one doesn't? And what could I adjust for that? Mm-hmm. I get appraisers' opinion all the time because it gives me a base. But then when I start narrowing it down, I really try to get like properties.
Well, and I love how you have opened up that scope too, is the fact is you're just trying to find something, and we're trying to find an end value that somebody is willing to make an offer on, right? Nothing's worth anything until somebody's willing to write the check for it.
And never, if you're gonna do a buy and hold, never ever say, oh, I should be able to get $1,400 a month out of that. Make sure you can get $1,400 out of that. It's before you close on it. Because, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Oh, you should be able to get X amount of dollars. Well, pull comps, rent comps. Rent comps is a real thing. Like, what other houses that are like mine, again, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, that is built in the 60s, has 1-car garage and a half acre, what does that rent for right now in the market in a 20, 30-mile radius? Mm-hmm. And when you can find that, then you can narrow it down and compare neighborhood, compare, siting, compare a few things. But man, I've seen too many people, oh, my brother's getting, $2,000 a month out of a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Well, it's 1,000 more square feet and it's got a 2-car garage, but he was banking that he'd get the same because it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And so it's important whether you're doing a fix and flip or buy and hold, short-term rental, it's all about the same. You need to make sure you're pulling comps with like comps.
Well, and if you don't, you're going to get into trouble with the guy that, hey, you know what? I want the $2,000. I want that all day long for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get it in this immediate market.
Yeah.
I might be able to get that closer to, I was going to say San Francisco, but now we're going to talk $6,000 a month for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Seriously.
And so you have to be careful in these comparisons, because even from, Idaho Falls to Rexburg, which is about a 30-mile difference, you're looking at about a 15-20% lower rent in the Rexburg market.
Yeah.
Right? And then it also means, like, what's the proximity to the college in Rexburg? What are the rental requirements? You just have some different things you have to comply with. And in the Rexburg market, you have certain housing that you can provide to students, and you have to get on a list, and you have to be approved, and it has to be in this criteria in order for you to be able to provide housing. And so you have to be able to jump through those hoops. And so comparables, even within 5-mile radius of Rexburg, you might be able to get 10% more right next to the college than you would even within 3 miles of the college, simply because you have some of that criteria met
Location.
to be able to provide housing to students.
Yeah, it's so true. So and realtors, you don't have to always pay an appraiser. Sometimes you can get a hold of an appraiser and they'll just shoot one off to you if you build a relationship. You say, hey, I don't need a full report. This isn't for bank. This is just for me. And maybe you get it for a couple $100. But most realtors, especially if they're a realtor you use quite a bit, they'll pull what's called a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis report. And now it's not an awesome thing, but it really gives you a good start. And usually what I do is I have a CMA pulled in a neighborhood that I'm looking to buy in, and I'll ask a realtor, hey, I'm looking to pick up a house in this type of neighborhood or in this neighborhood, and I'm looking for a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, 1 or 2 bath, depending on what it is. What am I looking at for value-wise? And so then they'll pull pretty good. So then I kind of have an overview of, hey, if it's this and this in this neighborhood, this should be what it's worth. And then I could dig deeper. But at least that gives me an idea if I even want to be in that neighborhood, or even if anything's even selling in the neighborhood. If there's, 30 for sale, he was like, man, there's like 550 houses and 30 of them for sale. I probably don't want to buy in that neighborhood. So that's part of what the realtor can help you out with.
Cool. Well, what are some other professionals? So now if we're looking at the comparables, what is the value that we're trying to get to? And what are we asking for?
Great question. Right? Yeah. Everybody calls it ARV, right? Which is after repaired value.
Yeah.
And
ARV is not a recreational vehicle.
Exactly. Or some other kind of, seems like there's an acronym for anything anymore, right?
Yeah, there is.
But I think that is almost as important. Actually, I think it's more important, well, about the same, as your comps. You got to make sure that when this is fixed up, I can get that price. So you pull all these comps and you want comps of, hey, and which is a great point. I'm glad you brought that up too, because sometimes a house might be run down and it's worth this. Well, I want to find one that's fixed up. Even though mine's run down, that's what I want to purchase price for. But now I want a comp if it's fixed up. So you want 2 different types of comps. One after repair value comp, and one that's in the shape that it's in now. Because the shape that it's in now, you want to make it appear to be as horrible as possible so you can get the best price possible, because you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. Or you get paid when you sell.
Get paid when you sell.
Yeah, I said that wrong. You get paid. You make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell. So it's important to pull both comps, because sometimes, man, we get into a property and we get into a good deal, but we didn't realize how much work it was going to take. And then once it's fixed up, we may not hit the price point we want, and now we're sunk. Or we have to turn it into a rental property, and which is not a bad idea either, but then you might be over leveraged on it, and doesn't cash flow very well. So those are 2 important comps that you need to pull.
Yeah. And in my practice, what I do is I actually pull comps as to the ARV, because I want to know what it's worth today. Mm-hmm. When it's fixed up, I want to know what it's worth, because I want multiple exit strategies.
Definitely.
I do not want to be stuck with a property, and I don't feed property.
Yeah.
Right? So if I end up with a house, it has to be able to have some equity when I'm done fixing it up. But then I want multiple other options to be able to exit that property, which would be sell, rent, or lease option. And there's other strategies of being able to dispose of property, but these would be my 3 strategies. And if I only understand the sell aspect and I'm not aware of what it could do from a rental aspect, I've just burned myself to where I might be coming in and I have to start feeding that property because it doesn't cash flow enough to cover the PITI, which is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And so these basic principles come into, how do I make sure I CYA? Right? Cover your assets.
Yeah.
We are just simply trying to make sure that that asset is, one, purchased right, and it's, able to be sold right, to where we can make $20, $30, $50, $100,000 on the disposal is what on the end sell.
Yeah.
But on the rental, I've got to be able to CYA. I've got to be able to cover the cost of that asset so that it contributes to my portfolio rather than takes away.
Yeah, you gotta extend that word out. Cover your assets.
Yeah, that's right.
Because both are true. Both are so true. So let's walk through so people kind of have a good idea. Now, this is not 100% for every property, but I have some really good numbers of when I walk through a property that I can tell, okay, I'm gonna have to put this much in the kitchen. I'm gonna have to put this much into the bathroom. I'm gonna have to put this much in for a roof, or this much in for windows. And again, make sure that wherever your market you're in, it can bear the fixes that you're doing. If there's houses all over that neighborhood that don't have new windows, I don't know if I put new windows in. So you got to figure out what your competition is. What are you competing against? Are you competing against brand new houses? Because if you are, man, you need to have new doors. You need to have everything new, because now you're competing with other buyers that are looking for new homes, because that's what the market is bearing at that point. But if it's, every house in that neighborhood all has older windows and they're all selling for what you need to sell it for to get your money back out and to make some, then you may not put windows in. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I got to put new windows in. Well, do you? Do you have to? Because 2 years ago, there was houses selling for the top of the market that had old wood windows that were painted shut and haven't opened up for 30 years. And because people didn't care that they had vinyl windows in them. So at that point, I wouldn't put vinyl windows in. But in 2010, 2011, I was doing everything because I was competing with brand new homes at that point. Because, building was cheap. All these builders were trying to sell their houses, so they had them dropped. So when I went out and remodeled houses, I had to compete against those new homes, so I was putting everything in. I was putting fancy backsplashes in, all brand new appliances, because I was trying to overdo and compete with those new homes. But 2 years ago, I wouldn't have done any of that. I wouldn't have put a backsplash in. I would have kept the old cabinets. I would have kept the old countertop as long as it was in good shape. I would have probably updated the appliances, because that's a wow factor. Mm-hmm. But so you really have to just know what you're competing against. I guess that's the biggest thing I'm trying to put across there.
Yeah. If you end up over updating it, right, you'll be able to get it sold, right? But now you've put maybe an extra $10,000 into that property that you really didn't need to do.
Yeah.
And the comparables that are on that street within that neighborhood are going to be houses that are, technically worth $10,000 less than what you have into the property. And so you've overspent your budget to get it sold, which is,
good.
At the end of the day, we want it to be, and we want to make money on property. We want to be able to get it sold and in a timely manner. But if we can save that $10,000 and still meet the market demands, right? It's a supply and demand aspect of how do we make sure that we are selling at the top of the market when we go on the end sell, so that we can make that, the massive income on a fix and flip.
Yeah, I love it. So let's go through numbers, just real quick numbers. Okay. So for the most part, when I walk through a bathroom, if it's a tub, shower combo, and a toilet and a sink, vanity, whatever else, I know right off the bat I'm going to be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 on the rehab or on fixing that bathroom. Now that could be, the variation is if the tub's solid, don't need to tear the tub out. If the surround is in good shape, maybe the toilet's in good shape, but maybe the vanity needs updated. Maybe just, it may be completely trashed. If you have to pull that bathroom completely down to studs, you're going to be $5,000 to $7,000 pretty easy, especially if you have to pull that tub out. So just get to know, real quick numbers, because if you walk through and say, okay, I've got 2 bathrooms, both of them are pretty bad, I'm going to be $5,000 a piece. That's $10,000 right off the bat. So you write down $10,000. Then you look at the roof, and the roof's a pretty good sized roof. I go anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 on most roofs, depending on, again, how big it is. Kitchens, that's a big one too, because kitchens, if you don't have to tear out the cabinets, man, your rehab's a lot cheaper. And if you don't have to put up countertops, it's a lot cheaper also. If you're just doing paint, backsplash, new appliances, you can get by with $5,000. But if you're having to tear everything out, you could be $10,000 to $15,000. So just look at it. And before you go in, make sure you know, hey, every house that has my comp that I want the ARV on, all has brand new kitchens. So that's my competition. So you know right off the bat, I'm gonna have to pull all the cabinets out. So I'm $5,000 to $7,000 just in cabinets right there. Then, unless you go to Home Depot and get some cheaper and get someone to install. I mean, everything is varies, so don't anybody beat me up. I'm just the messenger here. And then, if you put granite in, that's going to increase your costs. If you just do Formica, that might be a little cheaper, or maybe you do some tile work or whatever. So, but just quick numbers: 3 to 5 on a bathroom, 7 to 10, maybe 12 on a kitchen. Roofs are anywhere from 7 to 10. Windows, again, you're anywhere from 5 to 10, depending on how many windows you have, depending if they have to be custom built. If they're regular standard windows, you can go buy at Home Depot, a lot cheaper than having to order them. When I did that house that was built in 1920, I ordered those windows. It took a year and a half to get here.
Oh, no.
They got stuck in those ships in the channel. Remember 2 years ago, and they blocked all that? Yeah, anyways, I never got them. I finally ordered other ones and just said, hey, I don't want them anymore. So I only put like a $500 deposit, but I needed to get the windows. So
sure. Yeah, you got to get the project done.
Yeah. So that they were a lot more expensive because I had to custom order them because I didn't want to have to redo the window wells, and they were old 1820. They're huge windows and they're cool as heck. And I knew that wow factor was going to be huge for me selling that property.
Right.
So yeah, those are just some quick numbers. You have any other quick numbers for HVAC's another one? HVAC's so crazy right now. You can be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. Yeah. I've seen some people bid. So get a couple bids for an HVAC, and I don't have any problem with any HVAC companies in town, but just some technicians get a commission by selling new furnaces and new HVAC systems, and so sometimes I feel like they're a little pushy, or I feel like maybe they're trying to sell you something you don't actually need. Mm-hmm. And so just be careful. Whenever I have my furnace service, because I do it every year, I could do it, but I don't want to do it. I hate it. So I just hire it out. Usually you can get it for $50 to $75, and sometimes you get a gift card for $25, depending on what they offer. And as soon as the technician walks in the door, I was like, I don't need a new furnace. Please don't try and sell me one. Just service the unit. And they was looking at me like, oh, okay. And they come up and they're like, hey, your belt on your fan's a little worn out. It's about $10. You want to replace it? Yeah. Go ahead, replace the fan belt, or whatever it might be, or a sensor for $100. I'm okay with that, but I had one come up and say, "Oh man, you're about 20 years old. You need a new furnace. We put you one in for $18,000." Yeah, I'm just fine. It'll work just fine. I don't need a new furnace.
Well, and what I look at in furnaces, I just had 2 furnaces quoted on 2 different houses, and I think our total price was going to end up being like $12,500.
Oh, okay.
And that was going to be a full furnace, fan swap out.
That's awesome.
And so I think that's
a good deal.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel like Steve takes pretty good care of us there. And
is that Mora?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I use Steve. Yep. Steve's great.
He is awesome.
He's my neighbor just down the street from me.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, and we keep him, he's a busy guy, but at the end of the day, if you can get him there, he's taking care of us. So.
Yep. Right now, Heating Air is another one that I use that's great for servicing. Like for the spring or the fall, they do a great job. Like I said, they're usually $50 to $75, and sometimes you can get a gift card out of them or something. So, that's pretty awesome, and they do a pretty good job, and they're pretty honest. There's a few out there that, man, they just want to, hey, you $20,000, and hey, look, we have financing at 20% because you don't have 20 grand, right? No? Well, here's silence dotted line. It's crazy. So just be careful. If somebody comes in and says your whole furnace is trashed and you need a new one, get a second opinion. Call one of us and we'll go look at it. I had a friend who was ready to fill out the paperwork for a brand new furnace, and he called me and I was like, tell him thanks a lot for coming. Get a hold of another guy. In fact, I think I sent Steve over. He come over and was like, yeah, for $300 I can get this thing back running. Great.
Man, and I had another guy that called me, and we were talking the other day, and he ended up in that same position. They've ended up signing on that dotted line, and I think they're $36,000 in more debt on a house that probably should have only taken a $40,000 rehab, and they're only halfway through.
Oh man, see.
And so it's so painful for me to have these conversations after the fact, and that's where, talk to guys like us that have lived through it, experienced it, had experiences with professionals that are taking good care of people and not just gouging them for every last dollar they can get simply because they want the heat turned back on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I had a guy that called me and says, I did the inspection of the property. This technician's here, he's telling me that we're lucky that our whole family didn't die because there's gas leaking all over the basement. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I was just there a month ago. I checked it all out. It's all just fine. No, he's saying now he wants me. That's another one. I said, please tell him, say, hey, thanks for your opinion. We'll give you a call. I want to think about this. Had Right Now Heating Air come over and they fixed it for like $800.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well,
and there was no leaking. And that's what I say. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but just be careful with anything. Second opinions are very important. And tell contractors. Here's another thing. Even if you have a good contractor, and I have some that I'm really loyal to, but even sometimes when I get really busy and I'm just like, hey, just go do it. Hey, just go do it. I trust you. Sometimes that trust factor, they're like, oh, well, he's not even gonna check anyways. Seems like my prices bump up a little bit. So I always get a couple opinions. I tell them, hey, this is what it should be done for. And I know pretty much now anyways. But, and then how much time is it gonna take? Okay, I want to hold you that time. Like, I need this done. I don't want you on another project. Just be very upfront because, like, you've done enough of stuff like this that frustrations happen when expectations are met, and expectations usually aren't met when expectations are clearly defined. And so I try to clearly define all expectations so there is no frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, go into it on the same page, defining what the expectations are, and you can avoid those frustrations.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about
A lot.
fix and flips. We talked about rents. We talked about comparables and how to determine the comparables both on the after repair value, right? The value of the home if it could sell on the open market, the rents, and then, I mean, just to summarize, we've talked about the different values that you should put on different aspects of a home, whether it's bathrooms, kitchens, roofs, HVAC
Windows.
systems, whatever that may be. At the end of the day, know your numbers. And when we go into property, fall in love with the numbers before you fall in love with the property.
Which was tough for me when I first started.
Oh, I love property.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to own all of it,
Exactly.
right? But again, if you don't figure out your numbers, you won't own property for very long.
Yep, it's true. It's
So-
true. And then let's hit real quick. 3 different types of rehabs for 3 different types of properties. If you're doing a buy and hold, you're going to fix that a little bit different than you're going to do a fix and flip, or you're going to do short-term rental. Let's just talk about those real quick. So buy and hold, most of my rental properties, I clean them up, I make them nice, I fix things so they're not broken down. But a lot of times I won't replace carpet, I won't do repaint, I won't do new backsplash or new appliances. For the most part, if it works and it functions and it's clean, I just turn around and I put a renter right back in it. It's a long-term rental. If it's a short-term rental, what's different in a short-term rental? What do you want in a short-term rental?
Short-term rental, you're dealing with a different market of people that are coming through and they don't want a hotel, right? They could go and find a clean and functional room at a hotel.
Yeah.
But what they're looking for is a feeling of feeling like they are at home.
There you go.
And so if you can introduce to them, the cleanliness, the comforts of home, maybe some freshly baked cookies or a little gift on the counter as they walk in, they're looking for something that kind of just pops to them when they walk in the front door, when they approach the front door. All of that is going to be a factor in them being able to give you a positive review at the end of their stay.
Yeah.
And so you're going to go above and beyond a little bit in the furnishings, in the amenities that they get to experience as they come into that home, because reviews reflect on your ability to rent and do it on a short-term rental for the long period of time.
Yeah.
Now, and then on the ARV, if you're going to sell the home as on a fix and flip, I think we've already kind of talked about that, is we are trying to create a comparable property with what is in that immediate surrounding area of the type of the number of rooms, bathrooms, square footage, size of property, size of garages or shops.
What the market can bear for what fix-ups is. Yeah.
Exactly. So we want to meet and potentially somewhat exceed what is already on the market so that we can stand out, so that we can sell that home quickly, because holding costs add up and they can bury you really quick if you're not able to get that home sold.
Yeah. I remember one of my very first rental properties, I had a buddy come over, he's like, you're going to change out that carpet, aren't you? I'm like, why? The carpet's great. He's like, yeah, but it's green and it's ugly and shag. I'm like, it's going to be just fine. It's going to rent just fine. The people that are going to be renting this place are not going to care. They just want carpet on the floor. And it was pretty ugly and it was pretty shag. In fact, I think if I would have raked it, a deer would have ran out. It was pretty. It was pretty bad, but I ended up replacing it 2 years anyways. And if I would put brand new carpet in there, it probably would have. I would have to replace it. So and not that I'm a slumlord. I don't want anybody to think that that's it, because I'm not. I just like, don't replace it. It doesn't need to be replaced just because you don't like the carpet. The person that's going to be renting that, you're not renting it. You're going to rent it to somebody else, and they most of the time could care less about that carpet.
See, and the shag or the colored shag carpets, I mean, honestly, they can be really comfortable. When you walk on a shag carpet, I mean, it's better than any of your normal pads that you're able to put in on a carpet right now. So it can still provide a comfort to somebody that enjoys that. I mean, my grandma's house probably had the same carpet for 35 years. And as long as it's kept clean, at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver clean, functional, and valuable to whoever it is that's coming in to rent from us, so that they will pay us rent and they can have the home that they need to house their family.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, thanks for tuning in.